Today on Dr. Phil.
Since the start of the year, a staggering 34 million Americans quit their jobs.
Attention, shoppers, I quit.
I quit.
How do you feel about the way you quit?
It's a respectable thing when someone stands up for themselves.
From rage quitting,
that video will haunt you in your career,
to rich quitting.
I went from making $31,000 to $1 million net worth by my 40th birthday.
The cause and effect of the Great Resignation. Let's do it.
Good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today is going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
Get ready to take care of you. Have you ever wanted to call up your boss and tell him where to stick it? Well, if the answer is yes, you are not alone, not by a long shot. Since the start of the year, a staggering 34 million Americans have quit their jobs, the highest figure since records began, leaving employers scrambling to fill positions in key industries like restaurants, hotels, retail, service businesses. This phenomenon is so large, it's been given its own name, the Great Resignation. But what started it? Well, many experts say the immense psychological and financial pressures of the pandemic have pushed millions of workers to the breaking point, whereas you are about to see they snap and tell bosses, I'm not putting up with this crap anymore, I quit. Take a look.
A record number of people are quitting their jobs, and it's not over money.
No, this is being called the Great Resignation.
I just quit my job. I just quit my job.
It's an epidemic.
I am done.
Americans are quitting their jobs in record numbers.
I want a $1 raise.
This dude says he quit because the auto parts company he worked for refused to give him a $1 an hour raise.
This is my last week here, and this is my way of quitting.
A record 4.4 million Americans quit their jobs in September, up from 4.3 million in August.
And if we look at it over the whole year, we're probably going to see somewhere around 33 million people quit.
You ever get really mad at work and want to quit? Well, let's talk about rage quitting.
Attention, all shoppers. This company treats their employees like the managers, this company, this position, that big lazy bitch. I quit.
This store that I'll never have anyways, and management. I quit.
My name is Beth from Electronics. Manage it, and this job, I quit.
7% of restaurant workers have quit.
In Michigan, winter is coming, but the snowplow drivers aren't.
It's tough to get people. 10,000 John Deere employees just went on strike, joining 1,400 Kellogg's workers.
Done with the cubicle. I'm done commuting.
95% of workers said they were thinking about quitting.
Taking this and this and this as my severance package. Boom!
I quit.
Well, as I've said, no matter how flat you make a pancake, it's got two sides. And you talk to some managers and they say, look, these are some spoiled whiners. A job without pressure, you don't really have a job. Pressure is privilege. It means you're doing something that counts. So I'm asking questions today about which is which, or is it somewhere in the middle? Now, my first guest says he got so sick and tired of how he claims he was being treated at work that he put his managers on blast using the store's PA system and then shared the video online, which has since been viewed over 7 million times. Take a look.
Attention, guys. The time is now 9 whatever, and I quit.
My name is Edwin, and I'm 21 years old. Recently, I was working at a big retailer here in my hometown. They overanalyze and try to micromanage everything that I was doing. One day, I was assigned to work upstairs, and then I went downstairs to retrieve my water bottle, and my manager stopped me and told me that I was loafing around. My main manager told me, if you don't like it here, then quit. So I retaliated.
I quit. I'm quitting this job. That your email, and know that who's steady lying and harassing the style team daily, which is why we call her that Karen. And your mannequins look like.
I videotaped myself speaking over the store's intercom. I really wanted my managers to know how they were.
And because she's a boss and doesn't give a about her employees who are unprofessional as.
I posted my video where it currently has over 7 million views. I think the Great Resignation trend is very inspiring. Young people quitting their jobs because they don't want to deal with. Since 2018, I've quit 7 out of the 8 jobs that I've had. I just quit some little minimum wage job. It's no big deal at all.
And management, I quit. Now go write an email about that.
Edwin, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, man?
7 million views.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
So people are interested.
They relate.
What made you decide, first off, to quit? Why quit? You need a job, right? You need money.
Yeah, I do live alone. I do need the money, but it really wasn't worth it for me anymore. Having to take like a bus and a train to work just to deal with people who are just gonna like badger me all day and make it seem as if I'm doing something wrong when a lot of the times I'm not, or, you know, talk to me any certain way when I come out of my way to come to work here. Because I don't need, like, nobody needs to work somewhere. We choose to work there.
Some people need to work.
Okay,
you needed a job when you took that job, right?
I did.
Why did you take that job where you had to take a bus and a train to get there?
It wasn't that much at first. I did move, but...
That wasn't their fault. But
no.
You claim your issue wasn't that you had to work harder to get there. It was how they were treating you at the job.
Right.
How were they treating you?
I honestly really just felt as if I had like a target on my back. Like a lot of them were really just like coming at me like very condescending, acting as if like I'm a child or their child.
Somebody said they wanted to talk to you about going to get a drink?
Yes. I really just went downstairs to go grab my water bottle that I had.
Is that unreasonable for them to expect you to maintain your post at work?
I guess so. Yeah, I believe so. Like, if somebody needs water, like, they need water. Like, if somebody went to go to the bathroom and leave their post, like, they need to go to the bathroom.
Did you ever think about bringing some water with you when you went to work? Bringing a bottle of water, putting it under the...
No, I usually do, but they put me upstairs, and I usually work downstairs. So I thought I was working downstairs because they didn't have the schedule out when I got there. So I just put it where I usually put it, and then they switched me, so I had to go back down to get it when I got thirsty.
Oh, so you did bring water?
Yeah, I did bring it.
Then they moved you somewhere else, and you just didn't take your water with you?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the way you quit?
I mean, I feel pretty good about it.
You got on the PA?
I felt great afterwards, like leaving the store. I was all smiles on my way home.
How do you feel about it now?
I still feel the same way.
Feel good about it?
Yeah, I wouldn't go back or do anything different.
Well, do this with me. Assume that you take a job, you're in charge of hiring. So, you know, Bob Jonesy comes in and applies for a job, and so they say, check him out. And so you check him out, and one of the things you do is check his social media, and he's on there trashing his former employers on the company PA, quitting on the spot, no notice. How would you rate that as a risk?
You know, it would be a pretty high risk, but you know, it's a respectable thing when someone stands up for themselves. You know, that's a good quality to have.
So you'd consider that a plus?
I think, yeah, I would.
Do you like working?
I don't. I do not like working. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't.
Okay, well, that may work out just fine. That may work out all right. What are you doing now?
I do freelance editing from home.
So you work for yourself now?
Yep.
You're 21, right?
Yep.
Okay, and you've got a history of quitting jobs.
Yes.
In 2018, you worked for the Haunted Trail Cafe and Golf Course, and you quit for a fast food restaurant.
I did.
And you claim you quit after the boss falsely accused you of being on the phone.
Yes, he was doing a lot.
And then in 2019, you worked for a family-owned pizza restaurant. You walked out mid-shift. And then in 2019, you worked for a car wash.
Yeah.
And you quit to go to college.
Yeah, I did.
But you gave 2 weeks' notice there.
Of course, yes. I actually like that job.
Well, you said of course, but... Well, we're going to meet a man who says he doesn't think Edwin's quitting video was clever or a good idea at all. In fact, he describes it as a behavior of a child in an adult's environment. We'll talk about all of that when we come back.
Gen Z has used this opportunity of the great resignation to say, no, I'm not going into work. Edwin, they sent me your video. That video showed me a child in an adult's world. You didn't have the nerve to talk to these managers face to face. This will haunt you in your career.
Tomorrow.
I know you're not expecting us. Sorry to barge in.
Real solutions
What about him bugs you?
He just can never finish a chore.
to real problems.
She asked me to take the trash out, but she does not ask me to put it back there.
For Dr. Phil's biggest fans.
Let me see if I got this right. He cooks, he cleans, he does the laundry. You just don't like the way he does it.
That's tomorrow. Then on Monday, was their son wrongly convicted of murder?
Chris wrote you a letter explaining what took place.
The letter gave us the answers that we didn't know before.
That's Monday.
First 10 days.
As we know, millions of Americans lost their job during the pandemic, but something else happened too. Millions more actually left voluntarily.
And it has been called the Great Resignation.
It's a workers' market right now. Are employers really going to respond in the ways that workers want them to?
And just how long will this go on for?
I think this will last as long as the supply chain issues will last. So about another year, year and a half.
Well, we're talking today about the Great Resignation. It's a phenomenon where more Americans have quit their jobs this year than any other year in recent history. Now, my guest Edwin, who dramatically quit his job this year, says the Great Resignation is an empowering time for workers. Now, my guest Mike says Edwin has no business feeling empowered and should be ashamed of the way he conducted himself at work.
The Great Resignation. Am I surprised that is happening? Absolutely not. Gen Z has used this opportunity to say, no, I'm not going into work. We have a group of people entering the labor market that are snowflakes. They believe that when they speak, the words from God are coming out of their mouth. I was managing at a company, and a 23-year-old man, he wasn't feeling so well, so his mother called in sick for him. Are you kidding me? Edwin, they sent me your video. That video showed me a child in an adult's world. You didn't have the nerve to talk to these managers face to face. You took your ball and said, I'm going home. This will haunt you in your career. There is no problem with quitting, but to blow this up on social, making a spectacle out of yourself, that's a losing way to end a career. We've created these snowflakes by allowing everybody to be a winner, and all we've done is create a bunch of losers. Because they show up to work, that automatically means they get their trophy. You don't get an arts degree and think you're going to run the company. It does not work like that. I'm sorry, my snowflake friends.
Well, Mike joins us virtually now. So, Mike, I've done a lot of research into this, and I've talked to a lot of people in Edwin's situation, and they tell me that during the pandemic, they have had a chance to reflect on their jobs and their careers, and they want different things. They want to feel a sense of purpose. They want to have some flexibility in what they do. They want to be able to work virtually if they can. They want to have a sense of appreciation instead of feeling like the employer's doing them a favor by letting them work there.
I think that's 100% valid. They can expect to be treated with respect. They can't go into work saying, this is how I'm going to do it. This is what I require. But they do have a little more leverage in terms of getting the respect, and money isn't everything. Sometimes having that ability to have a balance with work life is the most important thing. But there are ways to go about it, and there are expectations that leadership can and should have.
So what's your problem with how Edwin did what he did?
Here's the thing. I get when you don't feel respected. I understand that. But what I saw was a child acting out, lashing out, that hasn't been taught how to have hard adult conversations.
I saw somebody hiding. Oh, okay.
I saw somebody hiding behind a desk. I saw somebody hiding behind a wall, saying all these big word things that an adult could say to an adult, but you were hiding. And then you grabbed your bag and you ran out, according to your video. And
I didn't say ran, I said walk.
A generational problem.
I mean, as far as like what I'm taught, like you don't know what I was taught. You weren't there. I wasn't hiding behind, hiding anywhere. I was in the office where, you know, all the managers be. So if anybody wanted to come say something to me, they could have said something.
Why didn't you go to your manager and say, hey, let me look you in the eye and tell you I'm quitting because of the way you're disregarding me, the way you're treating me. I'm just telling you straight up, eyeball to eyeball.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really wanted the whole story to hear, like, how they always embarrass, you know, their employees in front of guests or customers.
You should have been able to speak to that individual and say, I will not stand for this. And that, when you said as a HR hiring manager that you would respect that, I would respect you, even if you were cussing this person out, to have the guts to stand in front of a person and share what you expect and how you expect to be treated. But to go and say you weren't hiding, I saw you were hunched over the desk, speaking into reading your notes and speaking into the phone.
How else was I supposed to speak into the phone?
No matter what you say.
That's connected to the
It's got
table.
a cord. Tell me you can't stand up.
What would a company have to do to make you feel good about working there?
First of all, I need enough money, because if you're not coming with the money, then I gotta go. But secondly, like, don't talk to me like you're talking down on me. Like, talk to me like, you know, like how you would just talk to anybody else. Like, don't try to talk down on me because you're a team leader and I'm an employee.
So you want to feel respected?
Yeah.
You want to feel valued for what you're doing?
Yeah.
Of course, you want to be paid a reasonable amount. And that
at least something livable.
Do you have what you consider what I call consequential knowledge?
Can you tell me what that is, or what you consider that?
Yeah. Consequential knowledge is something you bring to the table that value would be missing if you weren't there.
Yeah.
Something unique to you that you bring.
Then yes, I do have that, because if you're not going to value me as an employee, I'm just going to go somewhere else, or I'm going to, you know, do my own thing, and I value myself enough to leave when I feel like, you know, I'm not being respected enough.
But isn't your consequential knowledge in editing and not in working at a retail store?
Yeah, I know.
Because, I mean, you can be replaced by someone without a lot of training at a retail store.
Of course, they probably already did.
So you need to be where you bring consequential knowledge to the table, something that is of value to them. That's where you get up the pay scale. All right, as the Great Resignation shows no signs of slowing down, we'll meet a woman who says quitting might be the best thing you could do for your career. She'll explain how it worked for her when we come back.
I've become the queen of quitting. I've quit 6 times. I went from making $31,200 at my first full-time job. Now I'm on track to have $1 million net worth by my 40th birthday. If you don't like your job, there's a way you can quit and not be a jerk about it. I've proven that.
People need to find the courage to speak out.
Jennifer Say takes on corporate America over the COVID closure crisis in public schools.
The pandemic has a lot of people reevaluating their priorities. And for a lot of Americans, their job no longer ranks at the top of the list.
Kate Santangelo quit her 15-year career in sales to be home full-time with her kids.
I was working endless hours and traveling a lot.
If COVID didn't happen, do you think that you still would have quit your job?
No, I think I'd still be there. Yeah, without a doubt.
We're talking about something called the Great Resignation, and that clip you just saw is only one example of a mass migration of millions of people who quit the workforce during the last year. Now, my next guest, Mandy Woodruff Santos, believes resigning does not need to be a bad thing at all.
My name's Mandy. I'm in personal finance, and I have a podcast called Brown Ambition.
Here to break it down for us is Mandy Woodruff, personal finance correspondent. Mandy, good morning.
Good morning. Millennials make up about 1/3 of the workforce today. So they're looking at the long game here. They're saying we want to recruit millennials
In the past decade, I've become the queen of quitting. I've quit 6 times. At age 22, I started my first full-time job as an education reporter for a small local newspaper. I ended up quitting that job less than a month after I started. I got an opportunity. I could not pass that opportunity up. My third full-time job, I was working for an online news site. I ended up quitting that job because my manager constantly micromanaged me, and I honestly could not deal with that toxic work environment. My fourth job, I thought I landed the jackpot. I ended up quitting a few years later, not because I was unhappy, but because I was poached by a competitor who offered me $20,000 more in salary. How could I pass that up? My sixth job, as a senior content director, I oversaw a team of 30 editors. I ended up quitting because I got an opportunity elsewhere that I just could not turn down. I went from making $31,200 at my first full-time job in 2010 to $225,000 in 2021. Now, at age 34, I'm on track to have $1 million net worth by my 40th birthday.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna quit.
I don't think there would have ever been a great resignation if it weren't for the pandemic. It was a seismic event that not only impacted people financially, but psychologically as well. To me, though, the rage quitting phenomenon is not right. It might make you feel good to post that on social media, but any future employer is not going to want to go near you if they see you rage quitting. If you don't like your job, there's a way you can quit and not be a jerk about it. I've proven that.
Well, please welcome money and career expert and co-host of the Brown Ambition podcast, Mandy Woodruff Santos. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And congratulations on your podcast, by the way. It is really good.
Thank you so much. Did you listen?
Yes, I have.
You know, you're not my target audience, but
I know I'm not your target audience.
So happy inside to hear.
But I wanted to know what it was about and what you were doing. And you are the pole vaulter of quitting, because you have gone way up the ladder. You've done it strategically.
Every job may not be your dream job, but you have to think about the long-term strategy here. So for me, it was always about people first, make friends, don't burn bridges, but then always be open and don't be complacent. I was always keeping my eyes open for that next juicy opportunity.
Right. And I think about it like a boat. You know, a boat going through the water leaves a wake behind it. Yeah. And you think about who you're leaving in your wake. What do you think about this trend of rage quitting?
I've seen dozens of videos. Yes, they tend to be younger people, but we saw some older people there. I don't want to paint millennials or zillennials with a broad brush. I am young myself. I'm 34, so I have been called a snowflake. What I feel is great empathy for today's workers, okay? We are working jobs, a lot of us out there, because we may have debt. Rent has never been higher, okay? We have inflation. These jobs that we have are means for survival. So if you're not seeing employees go to work and just be so grateful and kind of kiss the ground that managers walk on and have that sense of deep gratitude and joy of working, I can see why. We're all in survival mode, right? At the same time, though, there is a way to quit the right way, and there is a way to give that feedback, even difficult feedback, to managers.
I'm glad Edwin's here today, because I think what Edwin did was a bad idea, but I think he's humanizing himself a lot. And we're going to add a leading business expert that says workers need to learn new skills if they want to survive and thrive in the Great Resignation. After the break. Closed captioning provided by... Over 18 months of lockdowns and unemployment for millions has sparked a change in how many people view their lives, values, jobs, which has led to a nationwide movement called the Great Resignation. Now, my next guest, Dr. Sadal Neely, is a Harvard Business School professor who says she predicted a remote work revolution years before the pandemic hit. Please welcome professor at Harvard Business School and author of Remote Work Revolution, Succeeding from Anywhere, Dr. Sadal Neely. Dr. Neely, thank you for being here.
Thank you for that.
So you saw this coming way before anybody else did.
What I did see about 20 years ago is that technology was going to completely transform how we worked. Of course, it pains me that a global pandemic brought it into sharp relief March 2020. But 20 years ago, it was clear that all the digital tools were going to impact how we worked, and not everyone had to be in the same place for work to get done.
We've got about 250 people on staff here, and 85% now are working from home, and it's going famously. It's very clear that in this digital age, people can work from anywhere.
Performance and productivity remains high. And there's 30 years worth of research that shows that actually when you have a distributed workforce or have a distributed team, you actually have higher performance because job satisfaction tends to be higher as well. And here I am in Massachusetts joining you, and we're all together even though we're not in the same physical location.
Yeah, and you know, some of the people have said, I think 44% of the people say they work actually longer hours because they can't get away from it. 37% say they skip lunch because they work past it and just grab something on the run. And 57% say they're available 24/7. So for the employer, I think that there are actual pluses to it. I'm not sure that's a plus for the remote employee.
What you described is part of the downsides, right? This blurring between work and non-work to the point where people get burned out and stressed out. So it's really important. Part of the skills that we need to build in this remote work context or even hybrid work that includes a little bit of in-person presence is that we need to be clear about the boundaries when we start working, when we end working, and managers have to reinforce those, because what we're seeing too is burnout.
You're having to do double duty, triple duty, scramble around.
We have half the people not showing up. There's nothing we can do except for work harder.
Tomorrow.
I know you're not expecting us. Sorry to barge in.
Real solutions.
What about him bugs you?
He just can never finish a chore.
To real problems.
She asked me to take the trash out, but she does not ask me to put it back there.
For Dr. Phil's biggest fans.
Let me see if I got this right. He cooks, he cleans, he does the laundry. You just don't like the way he does it.
That's tomorrow. Then on Monday, was their son wrongly convicted of murder?
Chris wrote you a letter explaining what took place.
The letter gave us the answers that we didn't know before.
That's Monday.
Closed captioning provided by Dr. Neely. And Mandy, I'll ask you too, what suggestions do you have about maintaining that team spirit? Because here, I'm in my 20th season, for example, and these people grew up together, they're bonded, we've got families that have been started here and their kids have gone to college, and these people know each other. And now they've gone, like some of them, a year and a half without ever seeing each other because of the lockdown and stuff. What's your advice on maintaining that connectivity and that team spirit?
You have to be very intentional about the connectivity and the team spirit and build it into micro moments or your regular work. So one practice is called structuring unstructured time. So if you have a meeting, for example, with your team for an hour, invest some 6 or 7 minutes to actually check in to see how everyone is doing. Make that informal. Do a check-in, a round-robin check-in. Don't go straight to business. Another important thing is to facilitate emotional trust development in your team. And what that means is you have to have a healthy dose of self-disclosure among people. This is a very important part of relationship and connection building, which means you share a bit of yourself. It's really important to have the informal, frequent informal experiences with people, which is like virtual lunches. It's important to spend non-work time as well.
Yeah, I've created some graphics from your book, The Remote Work Revolution, Succeeding from Anywhere. The first word you said when I asked you that question was intentionality. You have to be intentional about doing that. And that's the key, right?
Absolutely. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was 2 weeks back from maternity leave myself in my own postpartum haze, and I had to move an entire team of 30 editors and writers virtual automatically. And the way that I approached it, that was, I think, extremely successful. I love my team a lot, yes, but I had to look at everyone as an individual and understand that not everyone likes to live in a virtual world the same way. So I actually had to talk to them. How do you want to communicate? You know, what's your communication style? Do you like a happy hour? Do you not want to go to a happy hour? Not forcing anyone to attend a virtual event if they didn't want to go. If what's better for you is taking a walk, as a manager, I had to listen and learn that everyone handles, this catastrophic, this seismic event in our lives in different ways. And I think leading from empathy in the first place is the best way to manage. And I think that's how teams like yours have done so well, from hair to makeup to wardrobe. They've all been here for more than 2 decades, it sounds like, or the whole, that's impressive, and that's something that is just not happening at a lot of places. So I commend you for that. And I think, obviously, you're a very empathetic person, and I wish that more managers led from that space of empathy.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk to a mom of 3 that claims her new career is all due to the Great Resignation. She's going to join the conversation when we come back.
I worked in the restaurant bar business for 9 years until COVID hit. I didn't hear from my boss for 3 months until he sent me a text saying, "Hey, we're opening tomorrow. Are you coming back to work?" I said no. The Great Resignation. I'm a part of it.
Do you know a young adult in an unhealthy relationship? Someone influenced by a hypnotic love interest? If you're concerned about someone blinded by love, I want to hear from you. Log on to drphil.com or text Phil to 88500. That's Phil to 88500.
Today, you can give...
We're here today talking about the cause and effect of the Great Resignation, where over 30 million Americans have quit their jobs this year alone, and that's a high. Now, also, hiring has been at a high, so I'm not sure if these people are quitting or switching. My next guest, Jessica, says she lost her job in March 2020 due to the pandemic, and she says months of unemployment gave her a chance to reflect on the life she wanted for her and her 3 children. So when her boss invited her back months later, she said, hell no, and jumped into a career she would never have imagined for herself.
My name is Jessica, and I'm married with 3 children. I worked in the restaurant bar business for 9 years until COVID hit. It was scary. I had 3 children at home, and in the restaurant bar business, when you're not there working, you're not making money. Cons of the bar business is the lack of security in your job. One day you could have a job, the next day you may not. You don't get health insurance, there's no retirement. I didn't hear from my boss for 3 months until he sent me a text saying, "Hey, we're opening tomorrow. Are you coming back to work?" He knew my family and my kids, and to not reach out for those several months did not sit well with me. When my boss asked me to come back, I said no. It felt so good. Having the time off during COVID gave me the time to think and reflect on what I really wanted to do. Then a new job opportunity came along, and I was able to go apply to be a longshorewoman. Now I have health insurance, paid vacation time, and retirement. I have doubled my salary and eventually will triple my salary from what I was making. The Great Resignation. I'm a part of it. I'm proud to be a success story.
Well, Jessica, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You never would have thought that would be a career for you, right?
No, never. Never. 25% of the industry is women.
You said during this pandemic you reflected and decided to go for it. What was it that triggered you to do it?
This opportunity came from my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
He worked down there.
Yeah, so somebody brought it and made you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so you've doubled, and you say you can wind up tripling, and this is what you've done, and you've gone from, what'd you start at?
$31,000.
And then you've gotten up to
over 300,000 when you count in bonuses, but we'll just make it easy and say 225.
And you've talked about how to quit and negotiate an even better salary, and you have some points about that. You said don't quit your job just for a bigger paycheck. What do you mean?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you have to think about the long game here. Do you have good career prospects? Is there a way for you to move up here?
You said never be the first to give a number.
Because it may be way under their budget, and if they seem really excited about what you've given, then you could have just shot yourself in the foot by giving a number that was, too low.
And you say practice negotiation skills when the stakes are low.
Absolutely.
Get some practice, right?
Absolutely.
You say the first offer isn't always the final offer. Usually it's not.
It's not. Not even the written offer that you may get after a verbal offer is the final offer. I have sent offers back and said, you know what? I've thought about it. That signing bonus is nice, but I'm not really feeling as excited about that as I am about the role itself. So can you go up even more? And I have had offers returned to me and increased.
And you say negotiate by phone instead of email.
Because all of us feel a little awkward talking about money, if we're honest, okay? And you're giving the person on the other end of the phone, you're putting that pressure on to give you an answer then, and they're not going to be as likely to write off your request as if it's in an email. I encourage women all over the place. I got a former colleague of mine a $3,000 cash sign-on bonus that she didn't even know she could ask for. I've seen a 454% increase in employers that are actually offering signing bonuses these days.
And you say don't go this alone. Gut check your offer with trusted mentors.
Is this offer, competitive? Could you ask for more? Or even if they can tell you, that's a really juicy offer, you should take it. That feels great.
Yeah. And I've got one that I really believe in strongly, and that is I don't ever talk to anybody that can't say yes. Because if you make a great presentation to somebody that then has to take that and make it to somebody else, you've diluted yourself. We're going to add a store worker that says these millions of people who are part of the Great Resignation have forgotten one thing. The people like her who stayed at work to pick up the slack, and she's not happy about it. She's going to talk about that when we come back.
When gas prices go up, everyone gets a little fiscally.
00 from your cell phone. That's Phil to 88500. I look forward to hearing from you. Well, we're back and we're talking about the Great Resignation. My next guest works for a popular grocery. Store chain and says this nationwide movement makes the lives of the workers left behind very difficult. So, Robin, this leaves some holes in the staff, and you're having to do double duty, triple duty, scramble around.
We have half the people not showing up. There's nothing we can do except for work harder. There's no other option.
Dr. Neely, employers clearly have to make the switch and recognize that people are looking for other aspects like flexibility, purpose, being able to work remote, et cetera. But employers also have the right to expect that a job gets done, and they need to require a certain degree of excellence. And as I said at the top of the program here, if you have a job without pressure, you don't really have a job. I mean, there are demands, there is pressure. How do you balance that out?
Employers absolutely have to set expectations on the types of performance and excellence that they require in order to provide products and services to their customers and other stakeholders. There's no doubt about that. And so to be a good employee is really important. At the same time, and these patterns that we're seeing, the Great Resignation is really also about the Great Recognition that our work arrangements have always been suboptimal, not quite great. We strained in order to make the 9 to 5. We commuted in these very stressful ways. We had all of these expenses in order to work. So, and benefits and perks and the lack of flexibility that didn't enable us to have the type of work and non-work lives that we want, like coming home and having dinner with our children. All of those things is what the big reckoning is about. So they should set expectations. There's no doubt about it, but they must listen to employees and try to accommodate the flexibility that people are hungering for, particularly since we know that if you give people the flexibility, they actually perform better and they'll meet your excellence goals.
You know, some people are saying it's like, well, the devil you know, you could have stayed in that job forever. The devil you know is better than one you don't. Not necessarily. You just stay with the devil you know, you're just older after 10 years. And should you be afraid of quitting? Yes. Should you be afraid of staying? Yes. There are risks on both sides. You just have to decide and do what you can afford to do. We're out of time today. I wish we had more. I want to thank all of my guests today. A special thanks to Mandy Woodruff Santos. Her podcast is Brown Ambition. There's a lot of good information there, and it's aimed at guiding and celebrating the careers of women of color. Lots of information there. I highly recommend it. As well as thanks to Harvard Business School professor Sadal Neely, whose book, Remote Work Revolution, is out now with highly effective advice on how to navigate your career through this brave new world. Dr. Neely has kindly arranged for every member of the studio and virtual audience to leave here today with a copy of her book. For more information about today's show, log on to drphil.com. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to my podcast, Fill in the Blanks. Right now, I'm focused on getting your power back in my series, Toxic Personalities in the Real World. I want you to start 2022 with a whole new attitude and approach, with a coping strategy and a plan. When toxic personalities are around you, these tools will be